Hi, everyone. My name is Marc Bates, and you've reached the Room Apologetics Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today's episode is entitled Doing, Not Dualism, the Transforming Initiatives of the Sermon on the Mount Within the Promised Plan of God. So let's get into it. What if the most famous sermon in human history was never meant to be a set of rules? For nearly 2,000 years, millions of people have looked at the Sermon on the Mount and seen it as a beautiful, impossible mountain peak. Most of us have been taught to believe that when Jesus delivered this sermon, he was intentionally setting up an unattainable ethical standard. The popular myth says that Jesus raised the moral bar so high, demanding that we never feel anger again, never look with lust, and love our worst enemies, precisely to make us realize that we are moral failures. According to this view, the sermon is a spiritual diagnostic tool designed to crush our self-righteousness, induce guilt, and drive us to seek salvation by grace alone. On the other end of the spectrum, others treat it as a private, mystical guide for personal piety that has absolutely nothing to say to the public square, public justice, or the physical world. So let's look into this. So we're going to start with Matthew 5:20. And this is Christ talking. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. But this popular understanding has a massive historically documented glitch. If the Sermon on the Mount is just an unattainable moral mirror meant to induce guilt, then we have essentially turned Jesus' central teaching into a useless academic exercise. We have excused ourselves from actually doing what he commanded. This interpretive strategy has led to what theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer famously called cheap grace, the comforting illusion of forgiveness without the costly active summons to follow Jesus' actual instructions. So let's go to Matthew 7:26. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. This glitch is that this impossible ideal framework is not a biblical category. It is a historical construct, a clever system of evasion born out of the church's post-apocalyptic accommodation to secular powers. In the centuries following the apostles, as the church sought favor with imperial Rome, Christian leaders slowly realized that the public, radical demands of the Sermon on the Mount were too disruptive to the state. To secure political influence, the church began to divide reality. Justin Martyr laid the early groundwork by interpreting the command to render to Caesar as an endorsement of secular imperial authority. Following the conversion of Constantine, the church shifted its primary focus from ethical practice and discipleship to doctrinal creeds, sidelining the sermon from public life. This dualism reached its logical climax with Martin Luther's two kingdoms theory. Luther simply divided human existence into two spheres, a private spiritual kingdom where the Sermon on the Mount applies, and a public secular kingdom governed by the sword and state and authority, where the sermon has no jurisdiction. This Hellenistic dualism, which separates the spiritual from the material, the private from the public, and the ideal from the real, stands in stark, irreconcilable contrast to the holistic, integrated worldview of the Hebrew Scriptures. Modern systematic theology has only made this dualistic evasion worse. Classical dispensationalism divided redemptive history into rigid, isolated epochs, regulated the sermon's ethical demands to a future millennial kingdom, stripping it of any immediate relevance for the church. On the flip side, covenant theology has frequently spiritualized the sermon, transferring Israel's land-centered promises to a disembodied church, abstracting its ethics and weakening their concrete historical force. But if we recover the ancient Hebraic cognitive environment of first century Judaism, the binary dualistic reading of the Sermon on the Mount completely falls apart. Scholars David Gushee and Glen Stassen have uncovered a literary key that reconfigures the entire sermon. Under the hood of Matthew's Gospel, Jesus' teachings are not structured as binary impossible oppositions like, "You have heard it said, but I say to you." Instead, the sermon is built upon the balanced poetic parallelism characteristic of Hebrew literature. The sermon Specifically, the sermon is composed of 14 distinct symmetrical triads. So we'll start at Matthew 5:17. Right? "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law of the prophets. I have not come to abolish, but to fulfill." Each of these 14 Hebraic triads is a grace-empowered political roadmap consisting of 3 precise movements. The first movement is a traditional righteousness. Jesus begins by citing a traditional command or a scribal interpretation of the Torah, affirming its enduring validity in God's plan. The second movement is the sinful pattern. Jesus diagnoses a realistic, vicious cycle of human rebellion and alienation that destroys community. The third movement, and the true climax of each triad, is the transforming initiative. This is not a passive prohibition, but an active grace-based command that empowers disciples to physically break the cycle of sin and advance the kingdom through concrete acts of peacemaking, justice, and deliverance. Let us look at how this works in Matthew chapter 5. The first case study is Jesus' teaching on anger and reconciliation. The traditional reading says that since Jesus equates anger with murder, he is demanding an impossible standard of emotional perfection. But if we trace the Hebraic triad, we see a brilliant practical path. Jesus starts with the traditional righteousness, do not murder, and then diagnoses the sinful pattern, the persistent, unchecked cycle of anger and relational contempt. But Jesus does not stop there. He delivers the transforming initiative using active, urgent imperative, go be reconciled. And this can be found in Matthew 5:24. Right? Leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled with your brother and then come and offer your gift. Jesus does not merely prohibit the emotion of anger. He commands an immediate physical action to disrupt the relational fracture. He tells his disciples that restoring a broken relationship takes precedence over temple worship itself. We see the same radical subversion in his teachings on nonviolent resistance. For generations, people have interpreted "turn the other cheek" as a command for passive surrender, a mandate to let oppressors walk all over the weak. But when we place this teaching back into the historical reality of Roman Palestine, its subversive power is unleashed. The traditional teaching was an eye for an eye, a legal limit to contain runaway vengeance. The sinful pattern was the escalation of violence, but the transforming initiative consists of 3 active, highly creative confrontations: turning the other cheek, giving up your cloak, and walking the second mile. So this will start in Matthew 5:39. "But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also." Right? In the ancient Mediterranean world, a physical slap to the right cheek was delivered with the back of the right hand, right? Slap. This was a deliberate, degrading insult used by social superiors, like Roman masters to slaves or Roman soldiers to Jewish subjects, to assert dominance by offering the left cheek. The victim makes a backhanded slap physically impossible. The oppressor is forced to either slap with an open hand or punch with a fist, action reserved only for social equals. Right? You see what happened there? By turning the cheek, the victim boldly asserts their equal human dignity, stripping the oppressor of their power to humiliate. This is not non-aggressive, passive resignation. This is saying, no, I'm equal to you. I'll prove it, right? Okay, the next one is 540. And if someone would sue you and take your tunic, right? Let him have your cloak as well. The second illustration is a lawsuit over an outer coat. In first century Palestine, the poorest peasants had only two garments, an undergarment and an outer cloak. By offering the cloak as well, the debtor walks out of the court completely naked. In ancient Jewish culture, the shame of nakedness fell not on the naked person, but on the one who stared at or caused the nakedness. Did you get that? The shame was not on the person who was naked. The shame was placed on the person who either caused it or stared at that person being naked. By surrendering his clothes, the poor debtor publicly exposes the greed and systematic exploitation of the wealthy creditor. That's a take you may not have heard before. Then we go to Matthew 5:41. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. The third illustration subverts military occupation. Roman law permitted a Roman soldier to draft a Jewish civilian to carry his heavy military gear for exactly 1 Roman mile. Crucially, military discipline strictly prohibited forcing a civilian to carry it any further, as the Roman authorities feared local rebellions. By volunteering to carry the pack a second mile, the civilian completely subverts the power dynamic. The soldier suddenly becomes the one pleading for his gear back, terrified of facing court-martial for violating military regulations. These are not acts of passive compliance. They are active, creative, nonviolent initiatives that confront injustice, strip power from oppressors, and assert the dignity of the image bearer. Okay? The Hebraic lens also completely redefines what Jesus means when he demands perfection. This would be Matthew 5:48. You therefore must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Okay, we all go, I can't be that, right? For centuries, Western interpreters have read this word perfect, Teleios in Greek, through the lens. Oh, and here, Teleios, right? Through the lens of Greek philosophy, defining it as a static, flawless, moral performance or absolute sinlessness. But in its Hebrew covenantal context, Teleios translates the Hebrew concept of wholeness and maturity. It refers to being complete, inclusive, and unlimited in mercy, just as God causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. Disciples are called to embody an all-encompassing, enemy-loving mercy. Perfection is not about keeping an unblemished legalistic checklist. It's about participating in the generous, boundless character of our Creator. Okay, did you catch that? It's about participating in the generous, boundless character of our Creator, right? It is something we can all do. These 14 transforming initiatives do not exist in a vacuum. Under Walter C. Kaiser's promised plan of God, the entire biblical narrative is a single, organically unfolding story of cosmic redemption. The goal of this promised plan is to reverse the devastating fractures of the 3 supernatural rebellions: the relational alienation of Eden, the systematic violence and boundary crossing of the Watchers, and the imperial centralization and division of the nations at Babel. And this is Genesis 12:3. And I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you, I will curse you. I will curse. And in all the families of the earth will be blessed. This is the Abrahamic Covenant. The Sermon on the Mount is the practical manual for how restored image bearers participate in this cosmic reversal. As we practice active reconciliation, nonviolent resistance, and all-encompassing enemy love, we are not trying to earn salvation. We are living out the Spirit-enabled reality of the new covenant, where God writes his Torah directly in our hearts. And that's Jeremiah 31:31. Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant. It's the only mention of new covenant in the Old Testament. With the house of Israel and the house of Judah. Who's the covenant with? Israel and Judah. Not like the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day when I took them by hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. My covenant that they broke, though I was their husband, declares the Lord. For this covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord, I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts. This is a profoundly non-supersessionist ethic. Jesus did not come to abolish the Torah or establish a brand new Gentile religion that replaces Israel. The concrete, future-oriented promises to ethnic Israel remain completely intact. Instead, the Messiah's reign extends the covenantal borders, grafting the nations into Israel's nourishing root so that Jew and Gentile together can serve as royal priests in God's cosmic temple. And that's Romans 11:17. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you, although a wild olive shoot, this is talking about the Gentiles here, right? And some of the branches, that's some of the Jewish branches broken off the olive tree, that is Israel, right? Or grafted in among the others, and now share in the nourishing root of the olive tree, right? This means that Christian ethics can no longer be reduced to private spirituality or sterile rule-based legalism. The Sermon on the Mount is a public, embodied, and highly dangerous call to active peacemaking. It demands that we step into broken spaces, disrupt cycles of hostility, protect the vulnerable, and reclaim the physical world of the Messiah's inaugurated reign. It is our royal, priestly manual to expand sacred space until the Creator returns to unite heaven and earth forever. Okay? So, if you wanted to dive deeper into ancient historical Hebraic patterns, of Scripture and reclaim a robust, supernatural apologetic, make sure to hit the subscribe button for the Rabbit Room Apologetics channel. Join our community as we discover the beautiful, unbroken coherence of God's promised plan together. All right. And as always, once again, this video was a quick summary of my article, Doing Not Dualism, the Transforming Initiatives of the Sermon on the Mount. You will find the article, the link to the article on the description of this video. Also on the article, you'll get this little 2-minute approximately explainer video. Just kind of gives you an overview of it. If you can't read the entire article and you want to get a quick idea of it, that helps. The audio podcast will be on here as well. And then, of course, the full article is expansive, more than I just covered here on this video, including full citations and bibliography, so you can see, you can follow up on some of the information, you can check my sources, you can do all that stuff. So you'll find that on there as well. And also in the description, you'll find a link to Logos. If you like kind of what you're seeing me do here, and I show you some tricks over time on Logos, it's the best Bible study software I know. There's a free trial. Just look for the link in my description. You can try that out at no cost to you. You'll also find a link to my Bible commentary. I've got a 3-year plan of working on the Bible commentaries. I publish every day. A chapter, a commentary on the chapter. That they're short commentaries. The audio is about 5 to 6 minutes long, approximately, and on paper it's about 2 pages. 2 pages long. They're easy to follow along with. Look into them. They hone down what that chapter is to its essence and give you some biblical concepts, biblical theology concepts to follow along with it. It's a great way to keep up with understanding where you're supposed to be. And in 3 years, it'll all be completed. Then we'll move on to some other stuff. But it's a long project for me, so check into it and see if you like what I'm doing. As always, comment on the video. I answer all comments. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, where you'd like me to go on some of the stuff. I get some of my best ideas from you guys, so let me know what you want me to do next, okay? Where you want me to take this stuff. Leave me questions, leave me answers you think I got wrong. That's how I learn, so go ahead and do that. Like and share this video as well. It's a great way to get started with a friend. Say, hey, look at this video. Let's talk about what Mark is talking about here, and let's look into it. And you can print out the article and really get into this in depth. So lots of options here. So please do so. Remember, enjoy your life. Be blessed in God's love, and always remember, God is good all the time.